Kayleigh McEnany, she's the White House press secretary. It looks like she's on the North Lawn. Kayleigh, good morning to you.
Great to join you.
Good to have you. Okay, so Griff was just talking about the situation down in Georgia where they've got the twin runoff races first week in January. And he brought up, the president is talking about how the election was rigged. And there are a number of Republicans who are worried that that kind of thing could backfire on that particular runoff election because they say, if it's rigged, if the 2020 November election was rigged and this one's rigged, why should I even bother voting?
Yeah, I'll leave it to the campaign to pontificate on the president's strategy with regard to...
Well, sometimes you're with the campaign, so you know the thinking there.
I do. I'm joining you in my official capacity today from the White House lawn, but I'll say this. The president has been unapologetic for the last 10 months in saying that mail-in voting, mass mail-in voting is subject to fraud. This has been a key part of what he's talked about when it comes to election integrity. He wants to make sure signatures are matched. Right. The mail-in voting is sacrosanct and is treated with the integrity that every American vote deserves, that it's actually encapsulating the vote of the American people.
But can't that come back to backfire with this Georgia special election?
No, because the president, again, look, if you go back to when Nancy Pelosi took the gavel, the very first bill she put in place was H.R. 1. This was to allowing people on voting rolls, illegal immigrants on voting rolls, no signature matching. Democrats for years, far before the 2016 election, the 2020 election rather, have tried to make our election system less secure. The president is going to continue to fight for that while also saying it's important to turn out and vote while also perfecting the system.
So, Kayleigh, we want you to respond to this. The AP, they put out an article about the female staff, communication staff that Biden has selected. They wrote 4 of the 7 top communication roles at the White House will be filled by women of color, and it's the first time the entire senior White House communications team will be entirely female. I know that you blasted the paper, some of your staffers did, saying, hey, look at us, we're all female. Then you had a guy who's one of the staffers who works on your team. I know all the bosses are females. And he said, since I arrived at the Trump White House, a woman has always been my boss. First, it was Hope Hicks, Mercedes Schlapp, and Sarah Sanders. Then it was Stephanie Grisham. And of course, currently it's Kayleigh McEnany and Elisa Farah. I guess the media forgot. His name is Judd Deere. What's your reaction? Because they're saying that you're lying about it.
Yeah, Judd Deere is a great member of our team. Every senior role in the White House, is a female. This president, out of the 5 press secretaries that have been women, 3 of them have been under President Trump. He appointed the first working mom in Sarah Sanders, then appointed another working mom, and then appointed me with a newborn under the age of 1. He's consistently empowered women, but the double standard in the media is absolutely absurd. If you're a Democrat woman who comes into the West Wing behind me, who takes that podium, your biggest concern outside of your official duties is the next glowing profile written about you. If you're a female woman in the Republican Party who takes that podium, guess what your worry is? Having a Playboy reporter shout questions at you, demeaning, misogynistic questions during a briefing. It's a double standard. It's one that's ridiculous and one that the White House Correspondents Association should look into when you have Playboy reporters shouting at women in a misogynistic manner simply because they're a member of the GOP.
I think Judd Deere needs a promotion, judging by how many bosses he's had. He does a really good job.
He's great.
If we can go to Operation Warp Speed, we are waiting. The planes are ready to go. The vaccine is ready to go. The FDA isn't yet. And according to the Axios, Mark Meadows has some of the FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn not to a Zoom call, but to show up in person and explain what the delay is. There's a sense they're not working around the clock and that he went to the Outer Banks to quarantine or vacation when you really should be pushing the Moderna vaccine before the middle of December and this Pfizer vaccine as in yesterday. What could you tell? I know it's easy to punt on this, but what could you tell us? Is there a little bit of tension that maybe the FDA is not working as hard as the CDC and others like yourself and the president?
Well, I don't want to talk about the meetings that'll be going on today in the West Wing, but what I'll say is this, is we're working around the clock. You had Moncef Slaoui come out and say normally a vaccine takes between 4 years and 25 years. Think about that. A quarter of a century in some cases for a vaccine.
I know, but is the FDA, Kayleigh, is there a sense that the FDA isn't?
Look, I think the FDA is working around the clock as well. This is a partnership here. Everyone wants to see American lives saved, from Dr. Stephen Hahn to this president. But this president will never apologize for putting the fire under these agencies to say, yes, we want a safe vaccine. Absolutely. We also want a fast one, because lives are at stake, and a vaccine by the end of the year is key and paramount, and that's exactly what this president has done. And he'll continue to push agencies to be rapid, but to be safe.
Right. And in the early days, the administration said to the governors, you know what, because different localities are, have different conditions, everybody should be in charge of things in their own states. Some of the governors are talking about more lockdowns or restrictions. I know in Rhode Island yesterday, they sent out a text alert to everybody, hey, for the next couple of weeks, try to stay as close to home as you possibly can. How does the administration feel about these new restrictions in various places all across the country? Because it looks as if right now, there's something like 41 states that it's spiking in.
Yeah, and we're in a different place today. Look, we locked down the country once, and it's because it was a novel virus that came in that we did not have therapeutics for, that we did not know how to handle because we didn't have testing. It was novel. No one had ever seen COVID-19. We know how to handle it now. Americans, we're responsible. We know how to wash our hands and socially distance and wear a mask and make wise decisions, but governors should trust their people to make the right decisions. This president's about freedom. He's not about shutting down businesses. He's not about locking down states, and he's certainly not about locking down places of religious worship, which the Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional what Governor Cuomo was doing there in New York, because yes, we have a pandemic, but we also have a United States Constitution, and those freedoms matter, even amid a pandemic.
Kayleigh, I'm reading an article, New York Times reporting on Joe Manchin, and they were interviewing him in his office, and he was working on the coronavirus stimulus package. He thinks 1.2 trillion is acceptable, which is half of what his party was pushing, but he is more of a moderate and wants to work with Republicans. Brian interviewed a lady who owns a restaurant earlier on our show. She said that she needs to lay off some employees, but she can't do it this close to Christmas. And she said a pregnant woman was in her office crying, saying, please don't lay me off. And she's refusing to do that, but they're not making any money because she owns a restaurant. People need help. What's the latest?
Yeah, what's the latest is Joe Manchin needs to go have a discussion with Nancy Pelosi, who has been fundamentally unserious in a way that's irresponsible and, quite frankly, disgusting. That she resumes the House, puts the House back in session. And what are the bills she puts forward? About legalizing marijuana, about going after Tiger King and regulating the use of tigers, instead of focusing on the American people and the relief that's needed. Her stimulus bill was chock full of, guess what? Mail-in voting regulations to try to secure Democrat power in the halls of Congress. While this president said, Nancy Pelosi, you won't negotiate with me? Well, guess what? I'll do protections from evictions. I'll do more funding for unemployment insurance via executive order. He's been serious, while Nancy Pelosi has been derelicting in her duty, and she does not deserve to be Speaker ever again.
Well, she almost lost it this time. They're within striking distance. So I got to tell you, Mitch McConnell is putting the heat up on Nancy Pelosi, says there's no reason for them not to have a relief package. And Joe Manchin, Senator Warner, and Dick Durbin are working with Murkowski, Romney, Cassidy, and Collins to try to get something done. They're trying to get from bottom up leadership to actually act. Will the president pick up the phone and get them to act? Will he put the pressure on like he always does behind the podium?
He's continually put the pressure on, and I can tell you, having had daily discussions with Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, the Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, they've consistently moved towards Nancy Pelosi on behalf of the president as his surrogate, going to the Hill. And Nancy Pelosi has been laughable. She says she wants this amount of funding to open schools, and we give that. We give more than that, and she rejects it. She's been unserious. So we'll continue to move towards the left, but that bipartisan group, again, needs to put pressure on the radical AOCs of the world and Ilhan Omars that control Nancy Pelosi like a marionette puppet.
I thought it was kind of the president to reach out to Joe Biden on Twitter and say, look, I wish you the best. I hope you get well soon. But then some of the media were criticizing him, questioning whether or not he was sincere. What was your reaction, or what was the president's reaction?
No, the president was absolutely being sincere. We're one country. We all have our parties, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans. That's what this president recognizes. That's what this president understands. But leave it to the media to continually take him out of context, think the worst of him. It's just what they do, and we're used to that here in the Trump administration.
All right. Kayleigh, thank you very much for joining us from the North Lawn on this first day of December.
Thanks, Steve.
All right.